dad's shoulders in Mardi Gras. And this was the big city. And that was kind of my first New Orleans experience as a kid. We all came here for the lifestyle, the appreciation of, you know, the architecture, the music, the food, and all of the things that, you know, really make New Orleans special. The Drifter name, in a lot of ways, comes from a lot of what I believe is me. Here in New Orleans, I found that it was pretty common to find people that had drifted here from, you know, some other place. So for me, I said, you know what? Wow, I don't feel like a stranger as much as I would elsewhere. The road trip from a young age was something that has always been part of me, but also, you know, my family. Mom would often, you know, argue with my father, oh, you're getting sleepy, let's pull over. And I think that is the charm and the beauty of a motel. It felt real, felt authentic. The Drifter was built in 1954, 55, let's just say the 1950s. It has 20 rooms. You know, we're on Highway 61, which is the Blues Highway. In time, a lot more development started happening throughout the downtown central business district. More people were coming into New Orleans and wanting to be closer to the action, which was at that time, you know, and still kind of is the French Quarter. It was just a location kind of thing. And then in turn, in the late 70s and 80s, things just started to become that much more challenging for businesses in this area, and ended up becoming a very undesirable location in the city. I have found that historically, when you would look in the motel space, it was probably the most underappreciated, overlooked asset out there. It's great. So the property, when we first purchased it, was quite rough. It originally was called the Crescent Motel, very typical roadside motel, and then it was the Rose Inn, and that was owned by a family here in New Orleans for quite some time. There was no curb appeal. The swimming pool was filled in with dirt. I basically saw it as, it can't get any worse than this. I appreciate unexpectedness and not knowing what's gonna happen around every corner. So for instance, instead of having the two front doors that originally were the entrance, I actually brought the entrance around the corner. I don't have any signage on the front, nothing that says the Drifter, nothing that says, hey, look at me. The idea is that I kind of didn't want it. I wanted to kind of cover the place in plants, make it feel like something's going on here. I'm not quite sure what. I even remember when we first opened, people weren't really sure if it was a hotel. They didn't even know. They didn't understand it. And I just loved that. And so when you come in this little discreet side entrance, the goal was, hey, this is kind of an experience. Get ready. So this was a 4-bedroom apartment that was occupied by the owners. This, when we first bought the place, was the only check-in desk lobby that existed at the property. So this was just essentially a little back office with some bulletproof plexiglass right here and a little pass-through that you would slide the keys. There was a living room in here with a kitchen kind of existing kind of in the middle of the building. For us, it was, let's just gut the whole thing and see what we're dealing with. I wanted to transcend time. So I wanted to pick up on various points from the 50s all the way to the present. The feeling of peeling back layers is key to me. The plan was originally to say, okay, I just want to get rid of the carpeting. I want to get rid of this gnarly tile. And I pulled it up, and next thing you know, we realized I got a phone call and some pictures, and somebody said, oh my God, like, we found terrazzo. It's like striking gold. And I just said, this is amazing. And really in the 1950s, you know, a lot of the architecture, a lot of the history of motels was rooted in the space race to really kind of give people somewhat of a cosmic, you know, hey, we're thinking bigger, you know, we're thinking about exploring. Maybe that wasn't the intent of terrazzo, but for me, that's how I read it. The design aesthetic, I would say that is probably best to reference here are minimal, playful, experimental, and nostalgic.
soon as you enter our doors, you've now kind of stepped into a world of color, of smells and tastes and, sounds that really give people a really unique experience.
This artist, very, very fascinating technique. They basically hand make individual butterflies out of fabric. So these are all woven. This is a riff off of a old Vogue magazine cover. And the funniest part was, because I don't believe in having televisions in the room or let alone even on the property, the goal was to say, well, if you want a TV, here's my TV.
Once you've even made your way through the lobby and you kind of walk out to what was once this parking lot and you see this tropical paradise, you're like, wow, this is insane. This is nuts. This is so cool.
The parking stripes are here, and cars would park diagonally, and you'd enter right into your room. We basically literally just took a concrete saw and went right through it and trimmed it out and hauled these pieces off, and then threw in some nice palms.
In the playful sense, I felt like the plants soften everything, right? They give you this sense of human scale, nature, calming. I'm a big believer in utilitarian spaces. I don't like to see a coffee shop just be a coffee shop and then close at 3. I don't like to see an office just be an office and close at 5 or 6. I don't like to see one use for one property. It's very wasteful. So I look at, these spaces as mixed-use spaces. The pink is the lot that's adjacent to the pool. It was a concrete parking lot that it was just kind of sitting there after we bought the property, decided to transform this.
This is what I call the annex, or really the pink lot, or I call it the pink. The pink lot is amazing pink AstroTurf, and a very easy solution to helping people spread out, lay out, and enjoy.
The rooms were all carpeted. The walls had this really rough, gross kind of sandpaper texture to them, where dust and dirt and grime had accumulated over, I don't know, maybe 2 decades.
I'll show you room 17. Definitely one of my pride and joy rooms. When I travel and when I go places, I like things to be calm, simple, less clutter. It's a king-size bed on a box spring, but rather than put the box spring on a frame with wheels, we actually just put it on the ground and we boxed it in with plywood. So really, it's just an exercise in using plywood in a very thoughtful way with some nice stain. The floors were at one point carpet. So first thing you do is rip out the carpet. We have concrete underneath. So we did some self-leveler and put in these great tiles that we bought in Mexico. With a hotel, you don't want to make it look too done, like too perfect, because I find that it just lacks soul. And what I believe is that when you have a property with a little grit, some imperfections, some wear and tear, patina, I think there's something cool about it because it makes it feel like there's more soul, similar to how I feel about New Orleans. And New Orleans is a great example of a place that has patina.
The proper way to, I guess you could say, differentiate between a good motel and a great motel is being beyond just a good place to sleep. You need to raise the bar when it comes to guest experience and ultimately evoking an emotion for that person who walks through your doors. For me, the future of the Drifter is, continuing to basically make this place a very special spot for locals to appreciate, for people that are coming into New Orleans who are looking to do something that's off the beaten path.